background about why that came to be?
Yeah, so it's the both between, um, but it is basically just because I felt like I needed an outlet where I could say just whatever I wanted. Where I do feel like I make it a point to speak truthfully and authentically in everything I write, but somewhere where I wasn't constrained and I wasn't trying to create something with anyone else in mind. Um, so basically, just what I felt like I needed to say, trusting that the people who need to hear it will hear it rather than sort of writing with an intended audience in mind. Which again wouldn't necessarily mean, I'm going to say drastically different things, but just to be able to have that freedom and, yeah, just that lack of constraint of I don't need to please anyone with this. I don't need to, you know, make it anything other than just kind of a pure flow state, um, kind of like a creative sandbox. Um, so I also feel like I needed a place to, I say sandbox partially because I needed a place to like play with my ideas, and to kind of let them thrash around and, see what they wanted to be. So likely a lot of things will come out in the newsletter I'm starting to see before I then maybe go pitch a different version of them to another outlet or take some little bits of different stories and kind of put them together in a story that I might pitch to another outlet. Because I said this on the Good Beer Hunting podcast. Like, I really believe in the kind of Elizabeth Gilbert, school of thought of ideas, and it's many people have said it beyond her, but she's the first one that comes to mind. That ideas are living things that choose you, and you kind of like, you know, receive them in moments of divine inspiration or whatever you want to say, and then it's kind of up to you to like nurture them and let them grow rather than imposing your own things on them. And sometimes I feel like one idea has so many different facets of it that you can write something about it for a beer magazine. It could, maybe there's a food angle to it, maybe there's a political angle to it, and I put myself in everything I do, I feel like, or I find things that I resonate with. So of course I'm in there somewhere. Not like I put myself in every story, but I see myself somewhere in every story. So to have a place where I can explore that aspect of it a little more, whereas maybe I wouldn't necessarily want to take myself into some of those other outlets quite as much. Um, that's a long answer, but
And I think what you're talking about gets to a really important point that, for so many of us, the prospect of writing about the beer industry, whether it is a personal thing or something for a publication, there is this sense that it is a passion project in a way. And that when we think about writing about things that excite us, that's both the outlet, professionally as well as emotionally. But what it sounds like you're talking about here is that this is another outlet where that's maybe a little bit separate, that this is a different way that perhaps helps to rejuvenate and, like you're saying, give you ways to approach ideas as well.
yeah, no, absolutely. And it is funny. At one point, when all I was doing was marketing work and I wasn't able to kind of like break into the journalism world yet, I was always thinking like, that'll be the place when I can finally say exactly what I want and like write all the things I want to say. And then now that I've started to have more of those opportunities, it's not like I like that is true, and they are all. I haven't, been lucky to be able to write just stories that I care about a lot and that I want to. Like, no one's giving me assignments and telling me what to do, but it is interesting that I'm like, oh, but I still need something else. um, yeah, just it's just the freedom and the not having to, yeah, just not having to think about any expectations or make it fit any certain outcome has just come to be important.
In a situation where this kind of prospect, whether it just be, I guess, maybe journaling, just writing some ideas down, maybe a blog, a newsletter, for people who already are spending their time writing or podcasting and things like that, what is it that you feel like all these things that you're talking about that offer you a benefit, that that it's not just that one other thing, because it has this personal connection? Why is it that you think that this might be something that could help or benefit others?
Yeah, and that's a good point with journaling too. I'm like, wow, I just have things all over the place. I mean, I've got multiple journals around my apartment right now, so I do that as well. So there's yet another layer. But yeah, I think the most important thing I would say for other people is just like the sandbox idea, to like test ideas out, let them play around with them, let them play around as well, and kind of see what happens, like to be able to observe what happens when not only you just start writing about it, like maybe in the way you would a journal, just a total stream of consciousness, but like something happens to the idea and to the way you think about it, I feel like, when you make it public. And even if no one interacts with it, because like I'll be honest, no one's ever commented on one of my newsletters. I don't have that many subscribers yet. Um, but still, it doesn't even matter if you're getting that feedback necessarily. Something, I just feel like something happens, and you, once you've released it and it's out in the world, like if I go back and look at them later, I usually think a little differently about them. And over time, it's kind of like, oh, well, maybe I didn't think about it from this angle, or I don't really think that anymore, or maybe it's, I still completely stand behind it, but it still becomes something else. And I mean, there have also been instances where people have read them and responded very positively and had a personal connection to them, and then that's a whole other level. That's really special, and that's my favorite part about writing, is connecting with other people. So um, yeah, I think just to see what happens when you release it and kind of take that leap of faith of, I'm going to put myself out there, and it isn't something that's been edited by an editor. It's not something, that it is a little rougher in that sense, and just kind of seeing what happens.